With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Welcome back. Final hour, 9 to noon. Nordo in for PA. PA back. He's hopping off the plane tomorrow morning and heading right here to the station for the Friday feast. I know Chad Greenway is going to be in the mix. Alec Lewis will be in studio as well. But joining me now, I got to check in with one of my favorites and check in on the baseball team here down in Fort Myers. John Bonus, Twins Daily, Twins Geek, Zone Coverage. He's got 100 websites on his business card. You can follow him at Twins Geek via X. He's down in the sunshine. How you doing, John?
Hi, kids. I'm doing great. It's 75 degrees. It's actually cool here today.
Ooh, geez.
But fantastic.
Put a cardigan on, okay? Zip up. I don't want you to catch a cold. I apologize for the awful clock management that I've been deploying today. But I did want to get your take on it. I know you're down there and following the team. Like, they're favored to win the AL Central, and, you know, there are some asterisks next to certain players' names, and it's health and all of that. But what pumps you up for the 2025 version of the Minnesota Twins, Johnny?
Well, it's got to be the pitching. I mean, we saw what we could get out of a year of Bailey Ober and Pablo Lopez. Joe Ryan has looked very good for a ton of time. You got to figure out some way to stay healthy into September. But those three at the top of the rotation are great. And then the depth beyond them is interesting. Chris Paddock is somebody that Twins fans probably don't have a real high opinion of because we haven't seen that much of him. But he was pumping up to 96, 97 in live BP yesterday. Simeon Woods Richardson was, rookie of the year for the Twins and also seems to have maintained his velocity. And then beyond that five, you've got a bunch of guys who kind of, got their start last year. David Festa, Zebby Matthews, and behind that, you've got a bunch of prospects. I'll tell you that the pitching staff in St. Paul next year, I think there are some teams, like perhaps the White Sox, who would trade their rotation straight up for what the Twins are going to be trotting out in St. Paul. That's the strength. And then on top of that, you've got a bullpen, right, which now looks deep and healthy, and we haven't seen that in several years from the Twins bullpen either. So I think that's where you're if you're hoping that the Twins are going to win, and if you're following the projection systems that say the Twins are going to win, I think a lot of that faith is based on what they see from the pitching side.
You mentioned the White Sox is awful. Are they? Is there a shift at all in the division? Maybe is how I would look at it. Cleveland, it felt like overperformed their expectations. Royals in the mix. Bobby Witt Jr. Does his thing. The Tigers appeared to be better maybe than some expected, and the White Sox were nearly historically awful. Are they on pace, as you mentioned, that they'd take St. Paul's lineup? Is the division kind of lining up to look very similar to what it did a year ago?
I think it is. The White Sox Vegas has put an over-under number on the White Sox that is damn near obscene. I've never seen a number that low in Major League Baseball. I think it's a sad reflection of sort of where Major League Baseball is and sort of the economics around baseball right now. That a 40 a team that was historically bad. No team has ever been as bad as the White Sox have been since 1900. Now is now looking to be maybe an even worse year this year. The rest of the teams, the good news for the Twins is, we kind of stood pat. We didn't do a lot of addition to our roster. Not into any other team. The Cleveland did, steal Santana from us, but they also lost, basically an equal player to Santana as part of that. The Royals sat on their hands. The Tigers came up second in a number of sweepstakes, including the Bregman sweepstakes this week. So as a result, it looks a lot like last year. You're dead on. And it's going to be, a 3 or 4 team race at the top, and then everybody just beating up on the White Sox, which is also fun to see.
Ty France, this cat that was signed recently for like $1 million. It didn't cost the team a ton of cash. But I was reading Twins Daily, Mr. Bonus. One of the guys there, Nick Nelson, you know him well. He kind of painted an ominous picture of infield defense in 2025, towards the bottom of the league in defensive runs saved a year ago. The underrated defense of Carlos Santana, that's not in the mix anymore. Things could be tough. And I'll admit, Bonus, when I'm thinking, you mentioned pitching, and I'm thinking the strength of a Griffin Jacks, you're offering optimism, maybe, again, some players with asterisks, Chris Paddock maybe being one of those guys. But I think about pitching, and I think about that being a strength of the team. I admit I'll overlook at times just thinking the nuts and bolts of defense in the field. He painted kind of an ominous picture in 2025.
Yeah, well, Nick knows his stuff. I think defense starts with the shortstop, and that means Correa. And Correa is really good defensively, provided he's healthy, right? Provided he's on the field. He's not very good defensively when he's not on the field. So, that's where I think a lot of the key comes. So the Twins had one of the things they had that went very well for them defensively last year was Carlos Santana. He was a Gold Glove winner.
Yep.
And he's gone. Ty France isn't known as a bad defensive first baseman. He had a tough year last year when he was hurt. But before that, he's been about average. Second base, last year they were kind of plug and play. Julian was there. They had a lot of things. And I'm not sure what the solution is going to be at second base. We don't know. That's a roster battle we have in camp. But Brooks Lee is one of the favorites to end up as, an everyday second baseman. Brooks Lee is very good defensively. So you could see a significant upgrade there if he's the one who wins that position. And then finally, you've got Royce Lewis at third base. And Royce Lewis didn't play a lot of third base last year. It was Jose Miranda. Royce Lewis also struggled when he was at third base last year. It sounds like that was a focus of his in this offseason, certainly being able to concentrate on just third base and not having to worry about, now I might be playing second base or I might be moving around, should help. So, I don't know. I think Nick raises an interesting point. I don't have a lot of concern about the overall defense. I don't think it's going to be great. I don't think it's going to be exceptional, but I think it should be passable.
With Royce Lewis, I brought this up earlier the week, and nobody appears to be worried about it, and it's maybe you're the same. The slump, it was almost a 2-month slump, it felt like, after Royce came back in the summertime, ended the season on a tough note, but it's just he's healthy, and we're ready to rock with Royce, right?
Yeah, we're ready to rock with Royce, and it wasn't just Royce. I mean, that collapse that we saw at the end of last season was facilitated by a couple of veterans who couldn't play, Correa and Buxton, right? And then a whole bunch of guys, younger guys, who just clearly weren't ready for the rigors of a full Major League Baseball season after spending, time in what was, limited Major League experience. Royce Lewis was one of them. Yeah, Royce Lewis has finished off seasons strong before. Royce Lewis has also been coming back from ACL injuries that made him have a late start almost every year. Yeah. Right? He didn't have that luxury this year of starting the season late. Brooks Lee hadn't played through that. He had a terrible 2-month stretch at the end. There's just a number of guys like that. Jose Miranda also, really had trouble in August and September maintaining his level of production. Is that they just wore down? I think the Twins are hoping so, but because of that, they've got sort of a renewed emphasis this year on doing stuff as a team, going through reps, trying to make sure that people stay strong together as opposed to working out individually. And that's showing in what some of the focuses that they've got on camp this year.
Who is somebody at camp that you're excited for, maybe first year into a second year into a third? One of the younger cats, because in the end, it's Buxton, it's Correa, it's Royce. We need our big three to play games. This team still managed to score a fair number of runs without them for certain stretches last year, but it's the big three. The Jeffers, the Wallners, et cetera. Is there somebody that's really piquing your interest down in Florida and into the games that ultimately count starting soon here that you think that you are excited to see maybe take that step, whatever that looks like?
I'm going to be heavily. In fact, right now I'm calling you from a sheltered spot because it's windy here at field number 4 at the complex because Edward Julian is on a backfield doing live BP, and I want to get some video of his swing because we want to do some analysis of it on Twins Daily.
Oh, sweet.
The whole second base group, whether it is Brooks Lee or Edward Julian, or even Austin Martin, who's maybe more of an outfielder at this point. But all three of those guys are guys that, we've had really, really high hopes for at some point, and they just seemed to fall apart towards the end of last year. But all three of them, I don't think they've lost that prospect shine too much. I think they just ran into a rough spot, which I think a lot of people do when they make it to the majors. And I think they're all being overlooked. Now, I don't know which one's going to break. I'm not sure if any of them are going to break camp with the team or if they're going to end up being, but I'm pretty confident we're going to see one of them have 400 at-bats or so on and establish themselves as a Major League Baseball player. So I would say Julian or potentially Brooks Lee are probably my top two.
Well, and Julian in particular, it's kind of all he can do is go up, and maybe that's too flippant to say, but I remember 2 years ago into the offseason, the playoff season, everyone kind of excited for him to truly take hold of that everyday second base spot, and he ended up finding himself in St. Paul for a large part of the year. So Julian has, yet again, it sounds like he hasn't lost that opportunity.
No, we had a long conversation with him yesterday, 2 days ago, a long interview with him yesterday. He is convinced what people were frustrated with, and what Julian was frustrated with, right, is that he looked very passive at the plate. He's always been known as a very patient hitter, but he ended up watching a lot of third strikes, in particular a lot of breaking ball third strikes. And, what he says is his swing just got messed up. He's been working on getting his swing back to the point where, in particular, he had tried to alter his swing so he could hit left-handers better. Unfortunately, what that meant is that he wasn't able to hit right-handers as well, and in particular, right-handers with breaking balls. And so, as that's a terrible trade for Julian to make, right? Julian is a left-handed hitter in the Twins organization. As a left-handed hitter, you're going to see 3 times as many right-handers as left-handers, right? And within the Twins organization, you might see 10 times as many because you're going to be sitting versus left-handers on a regular basis. And, that he just started a downward slide. He spent the offseason trying to get back to his old swing a little bit. And, he knows he needs to hit to hang on to that position. And, that's something he showed he can do. He didn't show it last year. And the question is, is that his swing or is that the league making an adjustment that he could not make? But he thinks it was the swing, and he's looking forward to proving himself when he frankly said the words, "I've got a chip on my shoulder this year," and I expect that is the case.
Hey, last thing for you. How long are you down in Florida? And then real quick for some intel, some Sao Paulo intel. If I remember correctly, you and your beautiful bride went to see Packers and Eagles, her birds, down in Sao Paulo,
Correct.
Brazil a year ago. And some news popped that the Vikings potentially could be on their way to another foreign destination. If they landed in Sao Paulo, is that a place you think Vikings fans could have a blast watching their team face somebody down in Brazil?
My experience at Sao Paulo was a little bit mixed. I would like to write up something on that, probably, on what we liked or didn't like. Sao Paulo's a big city. I think they did a decent job of, keeping it safe and accessible for people that came to visit for that particular weekend. But I did not find a lot of exciting things to do in Sao Paulo. I would, the highlight of that trip was leaving Sao Paulo and spending 4 days in Rio de Janeiro shortly thereafter. So that's probably what I would recommend to people is, go to see the game in Sao Paulo, but make sure you stop by Rio and hit the beaches for 4 or 5 days afterwards.
I absolutely love it. Enjoy your time down in Fort Myers. I appreciate you giving me some time today, and looking forward to your analysis on Eddie's swing down there.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Nordo, and Max, have a great trip.
Appreciate you, Bonus.
That's John Bonus, Twins Daily, Twins Geek, Zone Coverage. He truly does it all, and he's down in Fort Myers watching our favorite baseball team as spring training commences. And we appreciate always his contributions. You hear him with the Power Trip all the time. Once in a while, 9 to noon as well. So we love John Bonus. When we return, this is kind of, we talked about it earlier in the week. We call it the Dirty 30 for every team that didn't go to the Super Bowl last year. So everybody except for the Eagles and the Chiefs, they got needs. They have problems, and they're looking for solutions. Max's favorite team might have more problems than them all. And we're going to talk about that when we return. Still 11:40. You're going to hear head coach of the Minnesota Wild, John Hynes, joining us as he is an assistant with Team USA facing Canada this evening. Final hour continues 9 to noon with a cash-winning chance.
Yes, sir. The Fan wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword grand. Hey, that's easy. At KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword grand. Enter it now at KFAN. Check out our contest page to see how you can enter to win a pair of passes to an early screening of the new thriller Last Breath, starring Woody Harrelson and Simu Liu in theaters Friday, February 28th. That's KFAN.com, keyword contest to enter today.
Last Breath. Last Breath feels like Titans fans.
More like hot breath. Halitosis breath.
Correct. Coffee breath. The worst of breaths. The Tennessee Titans, dirty 30. It's a bit, maybe we'll continue, maybe we'll never do again. But in kind of a short segment, awaiting the head coach, John Hynes, calling us from out east around 11:40-ish. I just wanted to dig into it. Kind of the idea as we get closer to the draft, at some point, just kind of looking at the needs of all the teams that did not make the Super Bowl. The dirty 30. We all left unclean somewhere or another in the playoffs, or in the case of the Tennessee Titans case. I mean, they were a 3-win, just train wreck is really what, again, I liken them to the pyrotechnics stand that started on fire in Nissan Stadium and ruined it for everyone else a number of years ago. Your favorite team, Max, you said prior to the show you had some needs, some ideas, or at least you've kind of keyed in and woven your way towards making the Tennessee Titans better. Where's your after quarterback? So that's obvious. They pick first in the NFL draft.
Hopefully.
And I have some things in front of me here, but I'm curious what is drawing your ire when you look at the Titans and maybe some needs you think are most heavy on the hearts of Titans fans.
Well, the Titans need pretty much just about everything, but if I have to point my
like a new
ire,
roster?
Yeah, a new roster, new team, new city, new owner, new everything. But if I had to point my ire in one specific direction, first, it would go towards the right side of the offensive line, particularly the right tackle position. Nicolas Petit-Frere, I don't know necessarily how to pronounce his last name, but he allowed 10.
I think you nailed it.
Frere, I like that. He allowed 10 sacks this season, which is the third worst among right tackles this season. He graded as the 123rd right tackle out of 141 on Pro Football Focus. On Pro Football Focus, he is simply graded as ass.
Well, he was a 2022 third-round pick, because that's what I was kind of looking at. So it wasn't Decker. It was, I'm completely blanking on it. You guys had two bookend tackles in Tennessee for a number of years that were very good.
Yeah.
One retired, and the other one just kind of aged out.
You thinking of Lewan?
Yes, Taylor Lewan, and I forget who the other one was, but you had two very good tackles.
Yeah, wasn't a problem for a while.
But in the last 3 years, you selected J.C. Latham with your first pick in 2024. You selected Peter Skoronski with your first-round pick in 2023. He's your left guard. You selected in the second round 3 years ago, 2021, Dylan Radins. I think he might be a Bison. He might be North Dakota State.
Oh, really?
And then in 2022, in the third round, Petit Frere. I like the way you pronounce that.
Frere.
I think it's funny to say, more interesting to say than it is to see.
100%.
On the back of his jersey as the quarterback is being pulled up from the turf. Yeah, your offensive line, Lloyd Cushenberry, he's fine. You got issues on that O-line, despite the fact that your Titans have invested a ton of draft capital, high-end draft capital, by the way, into that O-line. And that's the thing, like the Vikings forever, it was, let's get a high-end, and Matt Khalil didn't work out from the 2012 draft. He left, I think 2016 was his last year. He tore his MCL and then went elsewhere. I think that was it, 2016. That was Adrian's final year as well, and the 8-8 was Sam Darnold, and the turnstile that was the offensive line after starting 5-0 in 2016. So you're right. Your O-line has not been good enough, specifically the right side. I see they got another guy, Jalen Duncan, in the mix at right tackle too.
Yeah, not going to cut it probably.
Defensively, when I look at your team and I look at the names as part of the Dirty 30, teams that did not go to the Super Bowl last year, I have a hard time summing up the defense. Your defense a year ago, Max.
It's a very weird operation, man. They're high end in some places and very low end in others.
Well, it was second in the NFL in yards allowed, but 30th in points allowed.
Yeah.
So your team, you aren't getting far on the Titans. They're going to make everything a grind. But in the end, they're going to let you score.
Right. And that probably has something to do with the, I believe, minus 16 turnover differential, as well as them ranking as one of the lower teams in terms of rush defense.
So you're saying that maybe Will Levis throwing it to the other team may have created some issues?
Yeah, I think I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm going to say that pick sixes are not good for your overall points given up per game.
Weren't the Titans on their way to... He had two of them, I think, last year where the Titans just didn't have to screw it up.
Yeah.
I think there was one with a tie game and he threw a pick six or something insane like that where he tried to go Brett Favre on it, but he's not Brett Favre. In a moment, game's tied. Just don't make a mistake, Will. Just go out there. Maybe we can get the kick. Maybe we'll take it to OT. Throws it to the other team for a pick six, and the freaking thing is over.
And that's kind of been the story of the Titans over the last couple of years, because if you remember correctly, a few seasons ago, they had the lead on the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe it was. Or maybe it was the Cincinnati Bengals in the playoffs, sacked Joe Burrow 10 times.
Yeah.
And Ryan Tannehill threw, I believe, 4 interceptions in one game. And all they had to do was just not throw 4 interceptions in one game. They lost a game. They sacked a quarterback 10 freaking times.
No, you're dead on. That was the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Your Titans were the 1 seed.
Yeah.
They had the bye week. I think Tannehill, his first pass of the game was a pick.
It was.
And then he threw one midway through, and then I think his final pass of the game was an interception as well.
It was.
And then Ryan Tannehill was on the street, and then you decided to go for Malik Willis, then you decided to go for Will Levis. But after all of this, and again, some of these dirty 30s are going to be short because the Titans just need a new team.
Right.
They have Jeffrey Simmons. Harold Landry was good for them. Arden Key kind of popped up, I think, 6 or 7 sacks. So, the defense,
they're great.
It's not bad.
My only problem is those 3 names that you named, they're all in the top 50 for snap count in the NFL. That's not going to cut it year in and year out. You're grinding them to the bone.
That's a very good point. In the end, Max, for your favorite team, it's Cam or Shador, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm leaning towards Shador right now.
Okay.
I feel like he has the same ceiling, but a higher floor.
Yeah, as long as Dion doesn't get involved.
Yeah, if Dion picks up the phone, he ain't going to Nashville.
Thank you for that. We are going to pause, and we're going to come back with the head coach of the Minnesota Wild, John Hynes. He's in Boston. And it's USA Canada at 7 o'clock tonight. We'll talk Team USA and our local hockey team with him to wrap 9 to noon now.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Final segment, 9 to noon. Nordowin for PA. PA returning tomorrow from his exotic vacation. But joining me now, no vacation tonight for the head coach of the Minnesota Wild, John Hynes. Team USA, Team Canada, take 2. The finale of the Four Nations face-off in Boston tonight. Puck drop around 7 p.m. on ESPN. Coach joins us now. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. How excited do you get for a game like this? It's technically exhibition, but country and pride are on the line. What excites you most about this game tonight with Canada?
Yeah, it's a big one. I mean, you get excited, obviously, best on best with U.S. and Canada. I think you see the first game that we played against each other in Montreal, the amount of passion and pride that the players had, and just the level of hockey that the game was, and it's kind of built up for this now in the finals. So it's been we've had 2 days in between games, so it's kind of a build up to it. But we're excited. We feel prepared and know it's going to be a real good hockey game, very competitive, hard battle. So it's exciting.
You've been involved with Team USA at some level for north of 2 decades now, so this probably doesn't surprise you. I'm a person as a fan that gets up a little bit higher for a game when people are putting the flag on and playing for their country. I was a bit surprised when I watched the level of hockey, the level of, I don't want to say vitriol, but Team USA and Canada was as good theater as it got on Saturday night. I suppose that did not surprise you, given how close to Team USA you've been for so many years.
Yeah, obviously the U.S.-Canada rivalry is always they're always competitive, emotional games. But I think this was, best on best. It's been a long time. I think possibly 2016 World Cup was the last time there was, NHL best on best players. And I think that the amount of the talent level on both teams, but also I think the competitive nature and, the pride factor of wanting to win this tournament, wanting to be the best team is something that, these both countries want from a hockey standpoint. And I think the players certainly feel that as well.
And what is that like for you? Of course, head coach the Minnesota Wild, the transition will take place, and that'll be your A topic as things move forward. But as a head coach who's been close to this league for so long, you're behind the bench and you keep mentioning best on best. And in the NHL, whoever is perceived to be the worst player in the National Hockey League is still really, really freaking good and elite at what he does. But we are talking about on the largest stage, the McDavids, the Eichels, and everybody involved, the best on best. It's got to be a treat for you to get to be so close to that.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. And when you talk about best on best, it's like we have guys that, on our team, like you said, every player that plays in the NHL is the best at what they do. And but now you come into a tournament like this, what's so different is that you have a guy like Brock Nelson or Vinny Trocheck or Dylan Larkin who are top power play players, top 6 forwards, top 3 forwards on their team, and they come here and they're playing, say a 4th line role, not any power play, and they're penalty killing. That's just a level of caliber of player that you're dealing with on all of these teams. And it's been exciting. I mean, the level of practices, the hockey IQ, the motivation level of the players has been, they've been really fun to work with, and it's exciting. The games have been, high level. All the teams, the Swedes, Finns, every game we played has been highly competitive and, very similar style of team. So tonight will be an epic battle. I think both teams are going to be, certainly prepared for it. And we've played each other once, so it'll be a battle tonight.
Now, it's tough. Every game is different, and I do expect it to be a battle. We're not going to go back to we're not going to play the 3 fights in the first 9 seconds card again, are we? Or maybe we should. I guess we all got to be tuned in for puck drop because we don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we didn't. Yeah, I mean that was the players decide those things, right? So we didn't even in that game. We didn't. They kind of had it planned on their own, and we didn't know anything about it. But yeah, I certainly would be ready to tune in on time tonight before puck drop.
So you're behind the bench doing this, and it's occupying a fair amount of your time. But meanwhile, it's like I wonder, what's going on back at practice with the Minnesota Wild. How's that balance been for you, and keeping up with Team USA and our favorite hockey team here in the state of hockey?
Yeah, it's been great. I know the guys have been. I've had communication with our assistant general managers and our coaches, and before we all went on break, from a coaching perspective, we sat together and planned out, what we wanted to be able to do and the style of practices we wanted, how we were going to practice, how long we were going to practice to try to get our guys up and running after the long break, but then also get ready for a game on Saturday. And feedback's been good. I think the players have been really excited to get back. The last 2 practices have been good. The players seem like they're dialed in. I think they understand, with 26 or 27 games left, the position we're in, it's the best time of year and playing our best hockey coming out of this break and making sure that we're, a real competitive team down the stretch. And I think everyone's excited for that. And the coaches that are back there now have done a really good job with it, and they'll have the team ready for Saturday.
That's Wild head coach John Hynes, also an assistant as part of Team USA in Canada tonight. I do want to jump back to the Wild in a minute, 1 or 2 more for you here, but does this, the one and done, as the conversation has gone, more than 10 million people watched the Saturday night festival with U.S. and Canada in Montreal, and there should be very good viewership tonight on a Thursday. A lot of people kind of talking about, in terms of this particular format, it's a one and done, but maybe moving forward in lieu of an All-Star weekend, would you be open to things like this taking place again in the future, health and everything considered?
I think so. There's been some talk of that kind of in and around the tournament here internally, and next year you'll have the Olympics.
Yep.
So that'll be another situation. But I think moving forward, a tournament like this is excellent. I just don't know if you could do it every year for the players because the intensity level of this tournament versus an all-star game. So it could be something maybe every other year or every 2 years. But the players have come here, and it's like playoff hockey. They're all out, they're all in. There's practices, there's meetings. The games have been intense. There's physicality. So, in the game. So I think that it's certainly great for the game of hockey. I think the players do really enjoy it, but that's something that would have to be talked about. Would it be beneficial to do it every year, or probably for the players' sake, maybe every other year or every couple of years? That's what's kind of been discussed here.
How do you look at it, John, in terms of maybe for a Brock Faber getting reps at this stage on this platform? You could speak to how good that's been for him. As a matter of fact, just kind of looking more globally, it sounds like all your guys have had a terrific tournament. Jonas Brodin, Jules Eriksson-Ek, Gustafsson as well. And then, of course, Boldy and Faber on Team USA. But you can speak to maybe the value and what they're getting out of this, but then also thinking about the other guys on the team, maybe the rest has done them well. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think for the players that haven't been involved in the tournament, obviously the rest and being able to get away from it certainly helps. I think it always helps them. We've been, played very competitive hockey all the way through up until the All-Star break here or the Four Nations break. So I think our guys coming back are rejuvenated and excited to pick up where we left off and put the work in and the competitiveness and the detail that makes our team really good. I think they're excited to do that here down the stretch. And the guys that have come to the tournament, I think it's really beneficial for them. I think for the more we can get, guys to play in high stakes environments, play with other best players, play in best on best tournaments, test themselves. And as you said, all of them had good tournaments, have been impactful players on their teams. Obviously Boldy and Faber with us with the U.S. and Jonas, Eki, and Gus playing for Sweden. Hostile environments, great crowds, a lot of media, high level of competition. I think for those guys to get in those environments, ultimately, if we get to where we want to get to as a team and an organization, those are the environments that you want to be able to succeed in. So I think it's been really beneficial for the guys that have been here also.
Last thing for you then, it's going to be a quick turn of the page. Get that W tonight against Canada. Then it's back to the Wild Thursday in Detroit. It does, despite, the conversation and you're closer to it than anybody else. You understand maybe struggles at home, but this stretch run here of the regular season, Coach, you kind of just defend the X and you guys are going to be in pretty good shape. Do you look at it like that at all?
Yeah, I think it's my focus, to be honest, is obviously is tonight with the U.S. team. Hopefully we can get the win and win the tournament. And then, as you said, then tomorrow's a new day. You're going into Minnesota Wild mindset, and it's really trying to get our team in Minnesota right back to the competitive nature that makes us a tough team to play against, the commitment level night in and night out, our attention to detail, and then making sure that we're playing our best hockey down the stretch. And obviously, winning at Excel is going to be important. We got a huge long homestand in March, which will be important for us. So we'll take each game and each situation as it comes, but the focus really is let's get back to, as fast as we can, let's get back to playing the hockey that gives us the best chance to win no matter where we play.
I love that. Thank you so much for giving me time on a game day, John. Good luck to you and Team USA tonight. Go get that tourney championship. That'll be fun.
All right, will do. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. All
right, thank you. That's Minnesota Wild head coach John Hynes from Boston. And that wraps up 9 to noon. Good times indeed, thanks to Parker and Russo and Lieber and Bonus Omai and Minnesota Wild head coach John Hynes. Thank you, Max, for hanging out with me and providing Vikes Bites and a little bit of perspective. It could be worse, Vikings fans.
It could be a lot worse. Also, some late breaking NBA news. Wemby out for the rest of the season.
What?
Out for the rest of the season. Deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder.
Well, expect wall-to-wall coverage of that with the Common Man on the program. Next. Hey, PA's back tomorrow. It's a feast. Love all of you for listening to 9 to noon. When you do, have an awesome afternoon.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.